Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 148. In today's episode, we're going to talk about reassessing safety metrics. Well, in the previous episode, we talked about safety metrics, the communication of safety metrics, and all that. But as time goes on, we want to make sure that we're getting value out of what we're measuring out there then. So we should be sitting down assessing the goals that we have, and not just the progress made, but are we getting value out of what we're doing then? I mean, it does take time and it takes effort to sit down to start to go down the path of this is what we're going to measure for safety excellence, we'll call it, our report card, our scorecard. Um, we certainly can't use things like, well, there isn't anybody hurt. Everybody appears to be smiling still, whereas that is important, of course, that's really not a good measure out there. So let's just kind of sit down and cover a few things in. When we talk about value, it has to be something that we can measure out there too. It's really hard to say we're doing great because nobody's hurt. I can close my eyes and walk across a busy street, and most of the time, people will avoid me. They'll stop. Of course, there's going to be honking and cussing and things, but I made it across, so I'm okay. So if we're just going to measure that, I'm actually safe because, well, I wasn't hurt in this whole thing. So we want to sit down, make sure that we're going to get that value that we're looking at. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. And I've tried the monthly approach, I've tried the quarterly approach, and the annual approach then too. Um, I really like the quarterly approach because you can look at um, starting a goal, which of course we seem to have a lot more oomph when we first start a goal, when we first start to measure something, and then when time goes on, not that it's in the background, but it's something that we've just been kind of accustomed to being there. I have found that if if you have your metrics on a quarterly basis, that really helps because you're really driving. You've now started it, you've now evaluated it. You can continue down the road, or you switch gears. You say that was great, or sometimes that was not great. I have done some metrics before in my day that at first glance we thought they were going to give us some real value, and once we really got into it, not that we didn't get the value that we wanted from it, it was a value that was difficult to explain. And anytime you have to really explain the value you're getting out of something, um, probably not getting the value that you need. And the one that really jumps out to me is we decided that we were going to look at closing safety action items. So we find a hazard, we put the interim controls in, and then of course we put in the long-term controls and all that stuff, and we were going to measure it by days. So we found that some people would close the action item, but they would forget to go back on the tracker and close it there too. We also found that there were times that we got just about everything done on day one, and then we waited for a part for 2 or 3 weeks. And not that we didn't make it really safe from the get go and everything else, but we just needed that one last part to kind of wrap things up then. So it makes it really hard to sit down and say, so it took 14 days to close the item, whereas other items it only took one day. It was I really struggled with equating the value in there then, and that was one that we had to sit down and look at punting. So we sit down, got rid of that one, and I do not remember. It's been 20 some years since we did this. One that we went back and we looked at then, so that we did get a lot of value out of. So there's not going to be a magic interval out there. I like the quarterly. Monthly, I found that just as soon as I got going, I'm kind of like wrapping up the month. So for me, that seemed to be a little bit early. And annual was probably the standard for most folks out there. We do a great job of getting started. we kind of get into a little bit of habits. We're setting up some systems, and then right at the very end, we're going back and making sure. Uh, so there's not going to be a magic formula out there. That is it for episode number 148. We talked about reassessing your safety metrics. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Thank you and have a safe day.